Welcome to Carrickfergus Vineyard, a place of hope where lives are changing. We're a church in the heart of Carrickfergus, passionate about seeing people's lives changed by the love of Jesus. The following message was given at one of our Sunday services.
I wonder if you can guess what's common about the following things. Writing an essay, painting the living room, renewing your car insurance, going to the dentist, completing a self-assessment tax return, booking your car in for a service. Anything common about those things? Who's that? You're not, okay. What else? Sorry? Takes longer than you think, okay, yeah. Costs more, okay, what else? Procrastination, you're on the right lines. Give that man a sweetie. What else? Boring. Yeah, what else? Sorry, go ahead, Dina. You just don't want to do it. You're on the right lines, give her a sweetie. They're all correct, by the way, but where I'm coming from, those two are spot on. What else? You have to do it, yes. It's painful. Difficult. Yeah. Pardon me? You have to think about it, yeah.
Preparation.
What? Preparation is required. Brilliant. Couple more. What was it? Yes, give you a sweetie. Oh, yes. They're all things that need to be done. They're all things that we procrastinate and put off. If we don't do them, or we do them late, there is the possibility of consequence and fines. And overall, that can impact our lives significantly. Today, we continue our teaching series, Relationship Goals, and we're going to be talking about crucial conversations. And they're all things that we put off. They're aspects of our lives that we know we would do well to do, but many of us put off and actually, a lot of the time, fudge and don't even bother having. And as a result, the consequences of living like that can actually impact the quality of our lives. So that's brought it back down to planet Earth, hasn't it? That was just the wee canapé. Here's the hors d'oeuvre. So years ago, this family came to our church, and they rocked up. It was during the summertime, and they said, this is going to be our church. And we're like, all right, okay. Most new people come to our church, and they kind of try to be anonymous, actually, and they kind of sit at the back or somewhere so they're not seen. But this guy comes up to me, and he says, yeah, this is going to be our church. I was like, all right, great, dead on. Let's see how this one goes. And quite a vivacious kind of character, outspoken, wanted to be involved. And as time wore on, I thought, gosh, this family, they're real. They're here to stay. And they seem really good folks. They seem really enthusiastic. They really seem like they've a heart after the Lord. And as time went on, I was just like, gosh, they're fantastic. But the fella, the dad, he just kept saying stupid things. And he just kept kind of putting his foot in there. And I just like, gosh, I really like this guy, but I really wish he wouldn't do that. And I wish he wouldn't say that. And I kind of got the sense that others thought and felt the same. And so I had a choice to make as a leader. It's like I can let that roll, I can let that go, but that's going to impact that person's life. That's going to impact other people's lives. Or I could choose to have a crucial conversation and say, hey, God is on you for a reason. He's on you for a purpose. But do you realize when there's this? And this person responded so positively. I was like, it was one of those ones. I prepared well for it. I was bricking it, if I'm really honest. Shouldn't really use that word. I was slightly nervous about the conversation in my preparation. And this person, he responded so well. And I know that many of you know who I'm talking about because you keep looking at him. But I'm delighted that after several years that Sergi is still in our church. Where are we at? The relationship goals so far. This, for us, has been really brilliant. Being totally truthful with you. We've been wanting to do such a series for some time now, but we've been quite nervous about doing it. Why? Because it infects all our lives. It impacts all of our lives, and yet we've been so delighted. The journey so far, Chantel has done the bulk of the teaching, and I'm not saying it because she's my wife and I love her, but it's been absolutely fantastic, incredibly helpful. We've looked at exploring the iceberg, what lies beneath. We've talked about the story that we tell ourselves and our family of origin. And if you've missed any of them, I would really encourage you go back and listen to them on the podcast. They're really helpful, really practical. And what it's doing in us is it's really making us look at our lives and our relationships, I hope in a really healthy way. And I know from my life group and talking to other life group leaders that it's being embedded in our conversations in those environments to a really helpful way. And we're so encouraged that you have the courage to pay attention to these things and to look at them a bit deeper. So today we're looking at crucial conversations, and it's basically stolen from this book here. Some of you will have a copy, some of you maybe have read the copy. This is edition 2, and it says at the top 2 million copies sold, but up there you can see there's 5 million copies sold. It's in its 3rd edition, so it must be a good book, and it must be embedded in lots of people's lives. And I want to just briefly look, first of all, at the scriptures before we dive in a bit more. We have a well-known passage that outlines some of the spiritual gifts. I'm going to whiz through it, Ephesians 4. So Christ gave himself the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, pastors, teachers, to equip his people for works of service, so that the body of Christ may be built up until we all reach unity in the faith and in the knowledge of the Son of God and become mature. To become mature. We want to be mature. Some of you did that emotionally healthy online questionnaire, and I know many of us were miffed. One or two of you came out as an adolescent, and you thought, what? Some of you came out as, what was the other word someone said in my life group? An infant, and you're like, what? Oh my gosh. But actually, we're wanting to move, aren't we, towards maturity, attaining to the whole measure of the fullness of Christ. Then we'll no longer be infants, tossed to and fro by the waves and blown here and there by every kind of teaching, cunning, craftiness, da-da-da-da-da. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of him who is the head, Christ. The fivefold, it's sometimes coined the term, spiritual gifts were given to the church to be leadership gifts. And as part of a role as leaders in a church context, which this is, it falls upon us to often have crucial conversations and to speak the truth in love to one another so that we may become mature, and that is the goal. But it's not just kind of restricted to those in a position of leadership in a church or in a workplace or in a family situation. It's actually for all of us. If we are to be mature, if we are to grow and be emotionally mature and spiritually mature, this is an area that we must navigate in our life. This is an area, like many other areas, that we would do well to pay attention to and grow in. And so today, 3 goals, real simple. What is a crucial conversation? That's the first thing. Secondly, why should we have them? What is the point? What is the purpose? Surely it's just easier to have a quiet life and avoid them at all costs. or not. And then lastly, and much more importantly, some really practical things of how to go about having a crucial conversation. So, buckle up, deep breath, here we go. What is a crucial conversation? Well, discussion between two or more people where the stakes are high, opinions vary, and emotions run strong. They could be in the context of a work situation. It could be within a family, wider family. It could be for us in a church context, relationships with one another. It could be with a neighborhood. It could be with a neighbor. It could be with someone in the sports club that you're a part of, or whatever kind of group of people where conflict arises and where a discussion needs to take place. And so I want to read briefly here, crucial conversations to remind ourselves. So, first, opinions vary. For example, you're talking with your boss about a possible promotion. She thinks you're not ready. You think you are. Second, stakes are high. You're in a meeting with 4 co-workers. You're trying to pick a new strategy for work. You've got to do something different or your company isn't going to hit the goals. Third, emotions run strong. For example, you're in the middle of a casual discussion with your spouse. He or she brings up an ugly incident that took place at yesterday's neighborhood party. Apparently, not only did you flirt with someone at the party, but according to your spouse, you were practically making out. You don't remember flirting. You simply remember being polite and friendly. Your spouse walks off in a huff. And so a crucial conversation has 3 elements to it. We have high stakes, we have strong emotions, and we have opposing opinions. So why would we even go there? If there's so much at risk, surely it's just easier to do nothing. So many of us, if we're really honest, we avoid these conversations at all costs. We don't want to upset the apple cart. Where do we get that phrase from? It's not in the notes. Upset the apple. Well, that must be something. Google that. Someone let me know. Here's some reasons why. Draw something out of someone. Encouraging someone to step into more. To encourage a person, but also to admonish. To carry God's heart and what he sees and what he desires for the person into the space. And to build trust along the way. Proverbs says the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Paul, writing to Titus, says this: these then are the things you should teach, encourage and rebuke with all authority. We get the opportunity, all of us as people, believers, as we emotionally mature, to bring God's light and life into another person's heart. This is not about scoring points. This is not about getting our own way. This is not about getting one up on someone else. This is not because it's really just about me. It's actually when we view these conversations from the perspective of the other person, and we do that with love and with honor and with respect, we have a fighting chance of things going well. So how do we typically handle crucial conversations? Usually one of 3 ways. Firstly, we do nothing, we avoid them completely. We've said that. Secondly, we have them, we have the conversation, but it's done badly and it doesn't really get to where it needs to get to. Or lastly, we have one and it goes well and we have the opportunity to bring life into the situation and to the person. So let's look at the first reason. Why is it that we do nothing? Why do we avoid it at all costs? Response. Why not have the conversation? Throw it out there. Scared of the other person's reaction? What else? Go ahead. No. It's difficult. Uncomfortable. Oh, what else? The potential consequences of it. What else? Yeah, that's it. What else? We don't know how. We can't be bothered. That's it. And one I've got down here, and it kind of encapsulates lots of what's already said, is fear. It's fear of how the other person's going to react. And will I just say here, right now, we can't control how the other person's going to react. We can only be responsible for ourselves in the situation. But fear of how they may react is a significant reason which stops us from having them in the first place. Fear of the outcome, fear of the consequence, etc., etc. And we also within the church, we have this false, and it is a false idea, that actually we're supposed to be peacemakers. And yes, we are called to peace. And the scriptures make it really clear, that verse, isn't there, about if wherever possible, live at peace with one another, right? That's absolutely true and absolutely right. But in order to get to a peace, we sometimes have to upset the apple cart. So I want to read just a few examples to really help embed this to us in terms of some of the scenarios and situations. This is taken from a really brilliant book called Emotionally Healthy Relationships. Listen, tune in, see where you might be similar. Carl is upset about the behavior of his spouse who constantly comes home late after work. He says nothing. Why? He thinks he is being like Christ by not saying anything. Although he does give her a cold shoulder, he is a false peacemaker. Pam disagrees with her co-workers at lunch when they slander her boss. She is afraid to speak up. She goes along. I don't want to kill the atmosphere by speaking up and disagreeing, she thinks. She is a false peacemaker. Bob goes to dinner with 10 other people. He is tight financially, so he orders only a salad and a starter. Meanwhile, the other 9 order starters, steak, wine, desserts. When the bill comes out, someone says, let's divide up the bill equally. It will take forever to figure it out. Everyone agrees. Bob is dying on the inside, but won't say anything. He is a false peacemaker. Yolanda is engaged. She would like more time to rethink her decision, but is afraid that her fiancé and his family will get angry. She goes through with the wedding. She is a false peacemaker. Ellen loves her parents. They're both quiet, quite critical about how she raises her children. Each holiday is filled with tension. Ellen doesn't say anything because she doesn't want to hurt their feelings. She is a false peacemaker. Sharon thinks her boyfriend is irresponsible but feels bad for him. He has had so much pain already in his life, she thinks. How can I add to that? So she breaks down from telling him the truth about the way his behavior is slowly killing their relationship. The relationship dies a slow death. She is a false peacemaker. Unresolved conflicts are one of the greatest tensions in Christians' lives today. Most of us hate them. We don't know what to do with them. Instead of risking any more broken relationships, we prefer to ignore the difficult issues and settle for false peace, hoping against hope that they will somehow go away. They don't. And we all learn sooner or later that you can't build Christ's kingdom on lies and pretense. Only the truth will do. No doubt, as I read some of those things there, and even that last statement, it's beginning in us, provoking us with all kinds of different things, scenarios, situations, people in our lives, perhaps crucial conversations that didn't go well in the past. You hope that they would. Fallout of relationship with people that were close to you, all these number of different things which are painful and which are awkward. And yet it is important that where we can, it is important that we have the courage and the faith, but also the skills, which we're going to talk about in a moment, in order to go there. If we look at the person of Jesus, which is always a good person to look at, you'll see in the human kindness of who he was not afraid to have these conversations. It was central to his mission. He constantly disrupted the peace of all those around him. Think of the conversations he had with the disciples, the religious leaders, the crowds, and the Romans. He did this by exposing lies, attitudes, behaviors, and giving a chance for real peace. Many responded and many ignored. And again, he couldn't control the outcome of the person's reaction, but nonetheless, never avoided conflict or appeased people. He didn't ignore tensions and differences. He chose to go there. And so let me take 60 seconds and perhaps casts a little bit of vision for us as a church community, a dream, a wish, a desire for us as a community. Wouldn't it be amazing that within our church, within the four walls of this church community, that this could be a place where we learn to have healthy conflict with one another, where we learn to, as we bump up against each other, as we rub against each other, we annoy each other. Let's be honest. It sometimes happens, and often actually happens. And couldn't this be a place where actually we would learn to grow in the ability to have healthy conflict, where we would love one another, where we'd learn the skills and do these conversations really well, and demonstrate what the proverb says, that iron sharpens iron. As we do that against each other, we actually have the ability, if we choose the posture of honor and love and respect for each other, wouldn't this be just a great place, an environment to learn those skills so that we could not only practice them in this church, but that we could practice them outside the four walls? So that we learn the skills so that in our workplaces, in our families, in our neighborhoods, we get to bring the truthful, enlightened peace into all of our relationships outside of the four walls. Wouldn't that be great? Some of you are convinced and others are just like, when's coffee? Sadly, what the church, big C, I'm not speaking about us, but sometimes what the church has become known for is unresolved conflict, where factions, dissensions, splits, people walking away, and the world looks on and says, hypocrites, they're no different. They're no different to us. But wouldn't it be great if we honored one another, loved one another, spoke well of each other, but spoke truth to each other, not behind each other's backs, but did it really well from the posture of love, speaking the truth in love. So, one way we handle them is we do nothing. Or secondly, we get to have the crucial conversation, but we handle it poorly. And it doesn't necessarily go so well. And being totally truthful with you, over the years, I've not done it well. And I know that it hasn't landed well, and actually it's created more problems than there were at the very beginning. And I've had to learn, and I've had to patch up things. I've had to say sorry on a number of occasions. And there's just some things that really we would why it went well, why it didn't go well. Sorry, I'm a bit tongue-tied here. Firstly, it was lack of preparation. Sometimes landing into a conversation, a crucial conversation, wasn't prepared. If I was on the receiving end of it, which I have been on many times before, I just wasn't expecting it. Suddenly, I'm in a conversation, and like this, it's like I've just stepped on a landmine that I didn't even know existed. I wasn't aware of it. I wasn't prepared for it, and gosh, suddenly I'm in the midst of something. Lack of preparation on my part. If I was wanting to have it with someone else, I knew what was going on, but I just hadn't really prepared in my head what I needed to say and how it was to be said and what have you. Then secondly, bad skills. In the past, this is me receiving a crucial conversation. So there's receiving and there's giving. Receiving. In the past, I'm talking years ago, I wouldn't have reacted very well. Someone would have come to me and said, Paul, da-da-da-da-da, and being totally truthful with you, I would have acted really defensively. I would have kind of pushed back. And that's just out of immaturity. That was just out of my own brokenness, my own sense of wanting to be liked by others. And I kind of pushed back. No, that's not me. And actually, I didn't have the maturity to accept the gold that they were trying to give me. And I've noticed actually over the years, and also slightly in pushback to the accusation of other leaders, or other leaders that perhaps are power hungry or abusive, or all that kind of stuff that has been exposed rightly within the body of Christ. And I've nearly gone the opposite way of whenever receiving something from someone, I've nearly gone, oh, you're absolutely right. Oh my gosh, I'm a terrible person. Whip me some more and whatever. And again, that was a false kind of reaction to the situation and lack of maturity. And I think over time, as I've tried to really navigate and really genuinely, honestly go before the Lord in this, in terms of receiving this, is saying, God, what is it of truth that I need to receive here? What is it that's gold that actually through the love of another person they're trying to expose to me and share with me, where I would do well to listen to and know about myself, that's going to help me grow so that people that encounter me and come across me are really well loved. That's maturity. On the flip side, my skills, hopefully, having conversations with one another, have grown and developed over the years, and I know that in the past I haven't necessarily done them so well. Here are some things that I've learnt away. Goal number 3, some practical things, how to have a crucial conversation. First of all, is having the right attitude. And I said it earlier, if we're coming with the attitude of, oh, I just want to get it off my chest, that's not the right attitude. Of course it's not. Paul and Timothy, they had this incredibly unique relationship. Paul was the leader of Timothy, and he needed to encourage Timothy to have the right attitudes in his conversations and relationships. We read in 1 Timothy 4, says to him, don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. Set an example in speech, in conduct, the way you carry yourself, in love, in faith, and in purity. And then in the next chapter, he goes on and says this, do not rebuke an older man harshly, but encourage him as if he were your father. Treat younger men as brothers, older women as mothers, and younger women as sisters with absolute purity. Paul's writing to Timothy, he's encouraging him, don't forget to use your voice. God's given you a voice. He's given you authority to speak into people's situations, but do it with the right intention, with the right attitude, with honor, with respect, and with dignity. And it's really important that we come with that posture. John Wimber, our founding father, he's quoted many times. This is one perhaps you've not heard of. He said this, the extent to which that person on the receiving end is utterly convinced that you are for them. If they know that, you'll probably have a good outcome. And so, attitude before important. Secondly, before communications. If the emotions aren't so strong, you could probably just have a quiet chat with someone over coffee, or just in passing. But if actually the stakes are really high and you know you need to have a conversation, it's important that you schedule one in. And it's important that the person knows you're going to have a chat. Not, let's just meet up for coffee, that will be great. It's like we need to talk about some of these things. And so some arrangements beforehand. Can I encourage you, if that's the case, to try to have the conversation sooner rather than later? There's nothing worse than knowing you've got to have a chat and it's scheduled for 3 weeks in advance. Because for 3 weeks, all you're doing is thinking about it. All you're doing is worrying about it. And so, if possible, have it sooner rather than later. The place and the time. Consider those things. Is it a neutral place? Is it a place where each of you is going to feel safe? From time to time, different conversations, they might require another person in the room. Some form of mediation. Someone who's there to just kind of keep things on track, or someone else to actually lead the conversation where things have got to DEFCON 4 or DEFCON 5, it's kind of like it just requires the skills of a neutral person who is not favoring either person, but is there to really help bring the two of them together in that mediation kind of role. And so, to the main course, what we say, what's said. You sit down and you frame the conversation. You create a roadmap. So glad that you came today. I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. I want you to know I'm for you, and I want you to know that the outcome of this is for these reasons. Then we begin into the conversation, whatever it is. And there could be a whole manner of different things. Here are some really good things to take away with you. Use I statements. Talk about it from your position and your posture. You know, if guys who are married here, you've done the marriage course or whatever, and I mean, that's conflict right there. Should be in every marriage at some point. When we talk about you did this, you did that, it's all accusory. You've got to own it from your perspective. When you said such and such, it made me feel like this. When this happened, da-di-da-di-da, I responded by this kind of way. I have noticed that when I am around you, you seem to ignore me. Is there any truth in that? It's I. It's from my perspective. Where possible, use good examples. If it's like something significant that's happened, that's the example, right? But if it's like lots of kind of things that you've just noticed over time and you're going into the conversation, you want to make things really clear, is use good examples. Don't say, you know, you do this and you do that. It's like when we were in that situation, remember that on that Thursday night together, and this is, use good examples. Explain how you receive the person. Explain lovingly and kindly, I find you to be when I am with you. I find when we talk, you are sarcastic, and I don't understand why. I find that when I'm with you, you just seem to make jokes all the time, and I want to actually be serious with you. I find that whenever I say these things, you're going to react negatively towards me. And again, you know, you're explaining using I statements how the person makes, how you receive that person. As the conversation goes on, check in with the person. A question I often use is, what are you hearing? That's just a brilliant, brilliant clarity question. Often in conversation, I'm saying certain things. I know what I'm saying. I know what I'm meaning. And I'm trying my very best with the English words that I have to convey the message, which I think is important. But I want to know that they're hearing what I'm saying. And so by simply saying, what are you hearing? You invite them to say back to you, recall back to you, this is what you're saying. And very often I'm like, dead on, great, we're on the same page. And other times they say something back to me, I'm like, no, I didn't mean that. And I get the chance to clarify by saying something else in a different way to helpfully understand, so that we understand each other. One of the main reasons we have conflict in our lives is miscommunication and or unmet expectations or unrealistic expectations. They're the two biggest reasons in church life and often in other relationships that we have. And therefore, in our communication, it's important that we have these conversations to clarify. And going back, I think 2 or 3 weeks with Chantel's teaching, so often I know that I do this, I've done this so many times. Someone does something or someone doesn't do something, and I make assumptions. They did this because of that. And I begin to build up this picture, and I might have a safe conversation with my spouse about this situation, and before we know it, we're agreeing with each other. That is why they did that. You know, and then it's important that then I have that conversation with that person over there to go, oh, right. We got that wrong. We got that wrong. I'm so glad that we had that conversation there so that we are good. Because otherwise we build up these assumptions about each other, and then we end up feeling and treating these people wrongly because we've believed our own lie. And unless we have the conversation, sorry to be patronizing, I didn't mean to be Pat. We're never going to know. We're never going to know. We just have to have those things. I need to speed up. So what are you hearing? Help me to understand is another brilliant phrase in these conversations. We, Johnny, doing such and such, you're like, what the heck are you doing that for? Instead of saying that, Johnny, help me understand when you did such a, what were you thinking? What was that about? And allow them to unpack what it is. Read the moment in the conversation. Read the emotion that's in the room. Sometimes it's helpful to break and say, do you know what? I just need the loo. Or do you want to go to the loo or whatever? Just take some time out. What did I say was funny? Do you want to go there? Why? What was funny about that? Keep going. I don't know. Have the conversation with me afterwards, Alan. Listen to the Holy Spirit as you're having the conversation. Very often in these situations, there's something else that's going on, which isn't revealed. And more often than not, it's like, yes, okay, that makes sense. We need to accept responsibility within it. And again, we can only control ourselves. We encourage the other person if the other person is responsible for something. And we're wanting that person for their sake, not for our sake, to go, yeah, fair enough, I got that wrong, I'm sorry. Can I encourage us to use the word sorry in our relationships? It means and makes such a difference. On Friday, I came home from lunch. I was teaching here. I was rushed. I got home. I literally had about 15 minutes for lunch. I ran home. I was emotionally super high because it's quite stressful here. And I just blew up at home. Hope and Owen were there. I got lunch in about 5 minutes and I just spilt out. And I acted really childishly in my words and in my manner. And I knew I blew it. I went out in the back garden with the dog, had my lunch, feeling really sorry for myself. And I had to go, and I knew I blew it. And I knew that I had to apologize to both of them later, which I did. If I want my children to own their stuff and learn from their mistakes, I have to model it. And I have to be honest. And I have to rebuild that broken relationship. I wasn't actually mad with them, by the way. I was just mad about stuff. But I had to rebuild that and repair that and had to model that. And so again, where we need to own it, let's own it, folks. Let's be honest. Okay, I've got some stuff there. Last couple of things. Awareness of history. Skip on to the last one, please, Joe. Is how do people see me? How do people view me? Yourself. What do people think of me? How do they find me? But also with the person, knowing about them, knowing about what's going on in their lives, knowing who they are is really, really, really helpful as we prepare. And into conclusion then. Our ability to engage in these crucial conversations is a sign of maturity. It is going to help us grow emotionally and spiritually by doing these things. It can be literally life-changing for us and for the people that we come into contact with. We get the opportunity to speak into someone's life and say, hey, mate, come on. There's more on you. God's got more for you. Isn't that incredible? The tongue is a powerful thing. Let's use it well. Let's not use it poorly. Remember what Jesus did. He didn't shirk things. He went for it. We can't control how the other person's going to react. Last two things. The first thing is this. there are just some relationships that are just so close, where you've had multiple crucial conversations with before, and they just haven't gone well, and they possibly are not going to go well in the future. And I think it's okay to not have those conversations any longer. And it's okay to actually possibly put a boundary in place instead. And yeah, I hope that's helpful for some. And then lastly, and this is an encouragement, that I wonder if God wants to have some crucial conversations with us in a loving way. He has a word for us that he wants to say, hey, come on, what about this?
Thanks for listening to the Carrickfergus Vineyard podcast. If you'd like to find out more about our church, please visit our website at carrickfergusvineyard.org.